Jennifer's metadata API is dashes, so that's pretty.
Of course. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending of your time zone. My name is Annabelle Rincon, and it's a great honor to tackle the last analytic Tableau user group of the year. The next one is already open, so you can already register. And some of the speakers has been announced, not all of them, but I guarantee you that it will be cool, so you can already register for that. So what this analytic tag is to speak about analytic and Tableau. So it's quite easy. It's every month, except for August where we rest a little bit. So it's always about Tableau, Tableau desktop, Tableau server, web edit as data. Please subscribe to Bevy and register so you don't have to be bothered by my different email. So here you have the QR code also, like to be able to register. And don't worry, this session is recorded. And we will send you the link to YouTube in the next days. What else should I tell you about that? That yes, we are three leaders leading this analytic tag. Shimdi will join us in some minutes. And you have Prasam, who is the Senior BI Engineer Emirates, NBD. And Shimdi is a database designer and developer of this site analytics. And myself, I'm enjoying life until I found a good job. So if there is any recruiter, please call me. So next slide, please. Prasam. Yeah, my passion and life are Tableau, chocolate, my dog, and Christmas, like Jennifer knows. Yesterday I was doing like a demo on my Christmas advent calendar. I'm also co-leading an enablement webinar. If you're interested in enablement, here's your YouTube channel where you can watch a previous one. And otherwise, keep in touch in LinkedIn. We have been promoting also like a monthly webinar on that. So next slide. No, I don't like to speak so much about me. So Prasam fell in love with Tableau and the data farm and learned the way of giving back. He's very much involved in several initiatives like Tableau Buddy and this dinner. He is a visionary and an ambassador. I don't know since how many years? 4 years at least, no, Prasam?
No, it's 3 years for ambassador, 2 for visionary.
Yeah, I was not so far away. I said 4 instead of 3. I was not so far away. So we should put some stars, for the number of years, maybe. So Prasam started using Tableau in 2020 and is currently working as a senior BI engineer at Emirates. He has a strange sense of community, that's true, and he has mentored. I love this Tableau Buddy initiative. More than 500 Tableau professional. And yes, look at that. He loves data art and he has 4 V's of the day. Remember this, this number. So Prasam loves cats, food, and anime. And 3 things he can die for. I love that. I think that you just replaced cat for dog, and I have the same quote. So Shimdi is a freelance and contract data visualization for clients in retail. He is also a visionary and ambassador. And he fell in love and went all over for Tableau in 2020, the same year. And he has a 14 V's of the day. He co-lead Makeover Monday, and he participated to a lot of different challenges. If you haven't seen the Tableau public portfolio of Shimdi and Prasam, you should probably go for it because they are fantastic. So Shimdi is a vis junkie and he enjoys documentaries. Oh, I didn't know he had time to make melody on the keyboard. Maybe we should ask him to do like a little song for us. Yeah. Learning every day about my colleagues. So
now you will learn a bit about me as well. I'm also doing some piano.
Ah, you see? You see?
Yeah.
So now I think that we should start a band, but I will just be the groupie. I cannot sing or play. So yeah, let's go for the next slide. Yes, the ground rule, please enjoy. This session is being recorded. Like I said, I will send the email and you will find us in YouTube after that. And if you have any question, please use the Q&A so it's easier for us to track. And if you just want to comment and say what you are doing for Christmas or for the holidays, or where you are joining for, please use the chat. And yes, please send her some love in social media, in LinkedIn or in Twitter. It's always good for us to see that you appreciate these sessions. And now I pass the mic to Prasam to introduce our speaker for today and the agenda.
Thank you, Annabelle. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us so early, filling this whole chat where you're coming from. And so we already had this welcome by us. Next, we have Jennifer, who will be talking about turning metadata into meaning and building a dynamic data in dictionary. I'm interested about that too. I would love to know about it. And then we'll have Steve as well as Chris. We'll be talking about Tableau's order of operations and how you can actually use it and optimize it through the query flow. And because it's the last event of the year, we have one quiz competition as well and some goodies for you. And Q&A, it's always there. You can always pop in questions over there. So that's the agenda. And now I'm going to introduce our amazing speakers. So first we have Jennifer. You can find her on Twitter. She goes by the hashtag. This is, I would like to just spell it out, JREEVRS5. So you can just search her right now, follow her. She's sharing so many blogs. Yeah, her initiative is also there through which she is sharing some great blogs and knowledge. So she earned her master's degree in human resources from the University of Cincinnati and began her career as a HR generalist. And driven by her passion, she transitioned to the field and she's now working as an analytics manager at Covetris and also the co-founder of Her Data. Her expertise lies in data preparation and visualization, and also she has a strong focus on tools like Alteryx. Maybe I should de-highlight Alteryx, but yes, Tableau is the main focus. And she is a Tableau ambassador, I think, for so many years, and she has been fostering community engagement through her initiatives, mentorship program. She has been also part of Data Visualization Society, and her work is totally focused on strategic direction, empowerment, community building, altogether letting the people know more about data in various sectors. And fun fact about her is she and her husband Heath are sets of twins, and they're all boys. Quite a fabulous family over there. And today, as I mentioned, she's going to talk about turning metadata into meaning. And now I'll hand over to her, let her talk all about that, which we are waiting for. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing your knowledge today with us.
Thank you, and thank you for the introduction and the opportunity to talk. And hello, everybody. Yes, I'm Jennifer Dawes. If we've not yet met, feel free to connect with me. I always love meeting and learning from data community members. I look at us all as an evergreen community, constantly learning from one another as we share our knowledge. I absolutely get real nerdy with the metadata, so I'm so excited to talk about this topic today. I'll share my screen. I have a lot of different resources that I'm going to share today. Happy to send out a couple of links in the chat afterward. Or again, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or reach out directly to me. So telling a little bit of a story, I guess, before I jump into using metadata to build a data dictionary. So years ago, when I was working on the HR side, I was working with Jeff Schaefer, Danushki De Oliveira, and Kevin Flerledge, like the giants of Tableau. And here I was coming from the HR background, trying to join their team and feeling completely of imposter syndrome as if I had no value to add such a fantastic lineup of a team. And there was a conversation happening shortly after I joined where our database management team was going to deprecate a table. And we had to act within a short window of time to determine what dashboards are built from these tables and swap them, or it was all going to break, right? Like, who hasn't been handled or handed a problem similar to that? But I was brand new into my role and thought, well, that's crazy. There's got to be a way to capture this, right? We kind of went round and round in the conversation. Everybody scratched their heads. And it was when I stumbled upon Tableau's developer program and their free sandbox that you can sign up for that I think a lot of things kind of shifted and changed for me. I ended up within 2 weeks creating, leveraging the metadata, answering the question that we needed for the team, and then fully embracing, like, I am a data analyst and I love this role. And the further I dug, the more exciting it got. So this is one of many links that I'll drop, but in case you didn't know, Tableau does have this developer program. Part of joining the developer program, not only are you learning from other individuals in the community about metadata, about server use, about Tableau Cloud, you get to create a free sandbox, which I'll be using today to demo metadata. It has been pivotal for my learning because there is a safety net for me. I can get in and look at Pulse. I can get in and explore creating all kinds of different ideas and piloting them. I can record videos of myself training and showing and demonstrating things to others. But at that juncture where we had an issue with the organization, it was kind of critical for me to be able to demonstrate, I'm just a girl that worked in HR. What do I know? But I found this option. Could this be an opportunity for us? So I said a lot of things, just kind of wanted to put that out there. Tableau creates a lot of great resources. As I dig into metadata and start exploring and explaining all of this with you all, a couple of caveats to keep in mind. Tableau data is available, or the metadata is available for Tableau Server and Cloud, and it is going to be based on your permissions. So with that being said, it becomes really, really powerful for a Tableau admin. Right? If I'm a Tableau admin of the cloud, then I can see all projects. I can see all workbooks that are published, and therefore I can see all downstream calculations and items under that. So jumping into metadata was a lot of playing in the free sandbox, but then I had to learn a different code because to pull the metadata, we're going to use something called GraphiQL, which I'll demonstrate and show you guys in a minute here. But understanding syntax, how to write these various different queries meant really being able to understand the logic behind the metadata and how it was stored. I had the opportunity to talk to Anya Provetova. I'm not going to pronounce it right. I'm sorry, Provetova. Wonderful, wonderful person. This was a couple of years back. She sat down with Zanushki Delaver and myself. We have her data learns and her data talks and all kinds of different blogs and videos that we've posted out on our website. But she walked us through like A to Z. How do you get into metadata and where to start? And that kind of exploded for me in terms of how I use it, when I leverage it, and not being afraid to go in and break a few queries to try to pull some things. So there is a lot of different links out here in terms of explanation of what the metadata, what you can pull in metadata. And then I myself have put together a couple of exercises. I think there's 3 or 4 out here. Today we're going to walk through this one. It's the number 3 exercise, pulling your data calculations. I put this together and I've used this query a handful of times, but recently at my organization, we're trying to do some data cleanup. We have all these different data sources, all of these different teams. And when we talk about revenue, it's being calculated 10 different ways. At least that was our assumption. And so it became really handy to say, hey, I know a way to capture this. We can pull all data calculations and we can start to scrutinize and examine them, right? And that becomes really powerful for data governance. So then we can look at, when it's calculated this way from this data source, where is that landing on what workbooks, and where do we have alignment and where do we not, and what changes do we need to make? So that was kind of the genesis of me revamping this query and putting the exercise together. I can see it as being really useful for a lot of different practices, just data documentation, helping your users understand the data, and then again, the data governance side as well. So how do we get there? This is beautiful, wonderful little workbook. You can download it from Tableau Public. The links are in here. I do walk everyone through it. You know, that I mentioned the Tableau developer program. What the heck is GraphiQL and why do we need to know what it is and use it? And then how do we get to that interface? There's a couple different ways, whether you're using a server or cloud instance. But for this example, I was showing you how to get to it for the cloud. Everything that's going to be after the hashtag, we replace it with metadata /GraphiQL/. And suddenly you'll see though. And by doing that, you're intercepting your permissions that already existed within Tableau, and you're just creating a different interface within your data, if that makes sense. GraphiQL becomes your interface for your Tableau cloud, which is why permissions matter. I can't query something that I can't see. So I'm going to demonstrate all of this in just a second here and show you really where this becomes useful. I walk you through, here's a sample query that you can use, the return. The other item that I got really comfortable with was I use Notepad++. If any of you have ever used it, it's really great for copying and pasting data because you can save it off as a JSON, which will capture the nodes. So you can kind of see in the structure of the data, the return that we're going to get. All of these brackets are breaking out the various different node structure within the data, which mirrors the exact way that we wrote the query as well. Again, I'll demonstrate it in just a second here, but one of the suggestions is to use Notepad++. You can save it into there, save it off as a JSON, and then when you pull it into Tableau, it becomes super powerful because then you can select which level of data that you want to bring in, how deep do you want? Do you want to go every node and select it, or are you just looking to pull in databases and tables? I've not really seen an instance where if I'm running the query, I want all the data. But there are options when you pull it into Tableau, which really is handy. I've given you the introduction. I've said a lot of words. So why don't we jump in and see a demo live, and then we can talk through it. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me and let me know. My gosh, I blew up my screen. This is my Tableau Cloud instance that I got as part of the developer program. Out here, I have all kinds of garbage that I've created, some of it powerful and useful that I've done for various talks, and some of it is absolute bananas. I don't know. I just needed fake data. But then I also have gone in and been able to play with Pulse and other pieces of the Tableau enterprise and products. So again, really, really handy. But for today, we're going to look at some of these more admin insight dashboards that I've built using GraphiQL. So with that, let's jump in. Let's walk back a sec. If I take this whole URL and I go into a new window and I remove everything after the hashtag and I just type in GraphiQL, whoops, I did it wrong already, metadata /GraphiQL/ and hit enter, you'll see that I'm landing, it would have been on a blank page. And this is how we start. And so from there, it's understanding what is it that we want to query, what do we want to drill into. There's a couple of handy resources on how you drive in and out of the data. You really have to think of everything as a stream. At the top level, you have workbooks. What's below a workbook? Well, downstream, we have calculations, and then we have maybe the ownership and where it's published projects. And so the queries are all written with that logic. I have the sample one. Nope. I have a sample one that we're going to use for today. And again, in my blog post, I kind of walk everybody through that. And I just cheated, but that's okay. You guys don't care. So this is the query that we're going to run. The first step is you have to write query, and then we're going to name it. So we could do better than calc, but I was being really short, trying to be fast when I wrote this originally. And the bracket's going to tell me, okay, what is the first node you want to pull? I want to look at workbooks. Under workbooks, I want to see name. I want to see the project name, which would tell me where it's published. And I want to first focus on embedded dashboards and the name and their ID. And within there, I want to see the fields. Within fields, I want to see their names. And then within those names, I want to see the formulas. Like you can see, we're drilling in to pull back all fields and calculations within the embedded data sources out on our online instance. There are ways to filter it. Let's say I really just want to focus on one specific workbook. We can do that as well by starting a filter, which if I do live, I'll mess up because the syntax is a little tricky, but I do have some examples of where that works as well. You can filter on any level of these, and what it's going to do, obviously, is just reduce your return. So let's go ahead and run this as it is so you can see what it looks like, and we'll go from there. So once I have it ready, I can hit play, and it's going to create my return. One thing to note, I can write another query right here below and continue going and going and going. Whatever section I have highlighted then will be what I run. So when I first started, and it was kind of trial and error as I was playing around with, that didn't exactly return what I wanted. Let me try again. I had multiple queries all written one right under the other. So each time I ran it, I would just highlight the one I wanted and run it. Similar to, I believe, Snowflake's very similar. So with this, I ran my query, and you can see over here, we have multiple workbooks that returned. Everything that is coming from my cloud instance is going to be in double quotes. So I have a Salesforce top accounts, which is fake data, and then lots of different things under that. So as it stands, this is hard to digest. It's not really giving me anything helpful beyond knowing, hey, the query seems to have worked. So if I right click here, select all, and then right click again and copy, I can then go into Notepad++. And as I said before, this becomes a powerful tool to then save out as a JSON. To my knowledge, I've not found a good way to directly save this. I've tried printing it. I've tried a lot of different things directly from GraphiQL. There does not seem to be a supported way to save it directly into a JSON. So Notepad++ kind of fills the gap of the two, if that makes sense. So once I come over here, I paste it. It looks just as it did in GraphiQL, nothing too exciting. But when I go up here, oops, and I save as, let me do better naming convention because I tend to just use nonsense. Anybody else have like Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, and then you share your screen and you find yourself in trouble? I'm not trying to do that today. Okay. So let's say I'm going to save it as calculations demo. I'm going to save that to my desktop so I can grab it quickly. So I'm saving it as a JSON file. The minute I hit save, you'll notice that all of the node structure is back, right? Because it's saved as a JSON, which is super duper helpful because when I open up my Tableau instance, let's pretend that's not there yet. Let's add a new data source. Let's then go find, I'm bad about scrolling while I'm sharing my screen. Nope, it's up here. We're going to go find our JSON file, which I saved to our desktop. It's calculation demo. We'll go ahead and open that up. Here's the window I was sharing before in my blog. If you really wanted to, you could just pull in one of these. In my mind, if you have the data and you queried the data, why not pull it all in? So as I select all and pull them in, let's see what the data looks like. Ta-da! I'll admit the naming convention for some of these fields isn't great. And when I first started creating some of these workbooks, I did a terrible thing, and I renamed them. I've since, in my years with Tableau, learned I never do that. Quick tip as I'm sharing this, I took over a workbook a couple of months ago that was just hundreds of calculations. It had gone through legacy, one person to the next, to the next, to the next, and nobody really understood anything at that point anymore. Once you start renaming various different fields, it becomes spaghetti noodles to trace back to the data as it comes in. One tip that I learned recently that I find super handy is at the bottom of your screen here, there is this lovely, lovely window that probably does not get enough play and action that tells you all about the fields as they come in. So you have your type, which is, we know we can get that on the other screen, your field name, which again, some of these are not really helpful, but let's say I renamed a handful of them. The physical table, it would show you how it's named on the physical table. JSON's not a great example of showing you that right now. And then the remote field name. So this is where it became helpful, the remote field name. So if project name had been renamed to project or some other name that became really hard to trace, there is a way to find it. So there's your helpful tip for the day. If you do need to ever go back and understand the logic and you can't seem to figure it out because it was just simply renamed, it's there. For today's demo, I'm not going to rename these, but they're terrible, just so we're clear, because they're just so long. So once you start creating something, it's a little bit challenging. With that being said, if we wanted to just quickly start building a table here, let's say, well, I want to know at a project level. And I imagine you all know projects if you use Tableau at work, but projects are those folders that you save things out to. So we have admin, insights, and development, it seems, on my fake instance. And then my workbook names are here as well. Okay, it's starting to take shape, and I can see under the workbooks a couple of the data sources being listed. And now let's start getting into some of these fields. So there is something called there's something called a name, and then there is something called a formula. Why both, and what do each of these mean? Well, not everything is a formula, obviously. If there is a number coming in directly from the data, it is going to be a null. So whatever some of these are, let's see if I can find a good example. Device. Well, device doesn't need a calculation. It is a discrete field that's coming in. So this is null. So what I started to do is I was looking at this and I decided, let me just exclude null for right now. Because really what I want to know is what are these calculations that someone is doing once the data is in a Tableau workbook. So at this point, when we exclude null, that's what we have. A number of records, the calculation for that is 1, so it seems. So this, you can kind of see this is starting to take shape. What's really fun is as I started having conversations with my current work, how I build this out, I have all the right data, but how I built this out and how I displayed it for the audience, so who is going to use it, kind of changed shape a little bit. So as it stands right now, I'm looking at everything from project first over. But really, I think what I want to look at is calculation first. Like, show me first the calculation, then tell me what's connected to that calculation. And so this was a way that we started looking at it, where there were common calculations. And then if I did a separate version of this, because again, multiple different ways to look at this, and I said, sorry if I'm going too fast on my screen. I just realized this could be making people a bit dizzy. So, but if we're talking revenue, and revenue is being thought of in 2 different ways, if I lead with the name of the field first, that would populate. So kind of starting to think about, now that I have the data, this is just like the data visualization 101, and just how do I create the story? What is the piece that we're trying to understand about this data? Then I can execute on those next couple of steps. Not to derail completely there. I think what I landed on was just kind of a basic workbook of, here's your projects, here are the attached workbooks, formulas, or I said that backwards, the data sources and the workbooks. And then if you hover over, you can see each of the calculations. This is a starting point for some data governance. This is a starting point for enabling your team to be able to, gosh, if only I had something like this when I first started the organization that I'm working at now. And it was here's your book of calculations, right? If somebody's asking you for revenue, here's how we calculate revenue. So hopefully this is helpful and gets you all started on a few ways that you can think about metadata and building out a data dictionary. Out on my blog, there are, I think, 2 or 3 other different examples. Maybe you're not thinking about the data dictionary, but instead maybe you're thinking about, what was the other example? The custom SQL. Gosh, how many dashboards do we have that are all connected to custom SQL? And what are those tables that could be impacted? Because it's hard to get at when you're looking at the data source structure on Tableau. It'll just say custom SQL. It's not going to list out every table within that SQL script. So there's a couple of other examples out here and different ideas on how to play with the metadata. But again, you're not going to break anything. All you're doing is scraping your Tableau instance based on your permissions. So you're not going to see anything you shouldn't be. And it kind of unlocks a whole world behind Tableau that is not yet easily accessed. One other thing that I think somebody at one point brought up that is kind of next on my radar, if I could figure out a way to do it, and I don't know how to show it. If you guys have ever seen the sheet captions or sheet descriptions, which I find super, super helpful, show this and show, maybe it's not the summary, but there's a couple of different ones. Describe the sheet. There it is, sheet describe. I got lost there. So it's under worksheet and it's sheet description. So if you look at this and kind of scroll down, there is so much information available within the metadata to tell us what is happening on this sheet. Now, wouldn't it be powerful if we could scrape every single piece of this and create a document, a living document for each workbook? Some of this you can get to, some of it's a little more tricky. I've yet to find the description itself, but that just kind of maybe hopefully inspires and opens your mind to some of the powers and uses of metadata. With that, I've been talking a lot. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, there is some question. So you have one question by Edgar Santos in the Q&A. Okay. I've been told by some customers that they are running into some limitation by the metadata API, response being limited, not being able to get all the info for their environment. Do you have any lesson learned on this point?
Yes, I think commonly the issue is there is a node limitation using GraphiQL. GraphiQL is a free instance to be able to query. The partner that I'm working with at my organization, he ended up taking what I had and running it in Python, and then also ran some pagination portion language into the query that enabled us to query every bit of our data in one query rather than having to filter. So if that answers the question, as it stands right now, this is a fake Tableau cloud instance. So I maybe have 15 workbooks. So my data, even if I query everything, isn't going to be very large. But on a live Tableau account where you might have hundreds or thousands of workbooks, this definitely becomes a very large data set. There are ways to do, it's called that pagination. So to segment out the data as it's being queried, so you can save it out and do the same thing. Hopefully that answers your question. Python seems to be great for creating some dynamic, creating the queries in a dynamic way, so you can constantly refresh the data as well. But again, this is kind of like the jumping off point, and then from there you get really into a lot more complicated stuff. I'm not sure, Edgar, if that is exactly what you're asking, but perhaps it's some pagination that needs to happen. And I think that might answer your question, Jorge, as well, as you were talking about, is to paginate the queries. So yeah, certainly if this is an area of interest that you see it as being really powerful, I think taking it out of GraphiQL and exploring running something like this in Python, I think is going to open up even more if you're running into size limitations. Beyond that, the one thing that I did was I was doing it at a workbook level, right? If I needed to query everything, let me just go workbook by workbook and start there. But it wasn't perfect. And then the question is site, Danny, you're asking, does the site administrator, not server administrator, have permission to run this? I am a site admin and it appears that I do not. So you have Tableau Cloud, I guess, is what you're saying, but you're not able to run it. Tableau Cloud, you should be able to. There is on the server side, if you have Tableau Server, forgive me as I file through, I can find some information. When I was working with Tableau Server, I was a Tableau admin and I could not run it, and we had to enable it, if that makes sense. So if you're running into issues, it could be that you need to enable it as well. See, Jorge jumped on it. Thank you.
Okay,
yeah, I couldn't help because I was a Tableau server admin. So I had access to everything, including the logs. Usually I play with the logs, Jennifer. Not this, but that's interesting also.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yes. Do we have other questions, Prasan?
No, I think we're good. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for taking us through the whole process. And some of us are definitely going to try this out. Also, you can go to her blog, and I'll share the link as well, so you can find it over there. Try it out again. You will have the recording as well, so it will be easy. Not that, but it will be there. And feel free to message her as well if you have any questions. We're all there to help. So thanks again, Jennifer. Thank you so much for taking us through this session and through your insights you have worked on. And I think the need to learn Python is going to be there. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so now we are moving over to our next hero of the day. Steve. Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm okay, actually. I'm okay. Thanks, Prasan.
December, you should be like, I'm doing great.
Well, no, I am doing great because it's December, but I'm supposed to be presenting with my associate, Chris, but he's very, very sick. So I'm going to present the whole thing, which is funny because I haven't actually done any of it at all. So we'll see how this goes, shall we?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so we have Steve Adams. You can find him on Twitter as visual_DJ. That's a very sassy name over there. And he's a Tableau trainer, coach, developer, Tableau social ambassador, and the founder of vizdj.com, as well as he comes with around 20 years of director level experience. He has honed his expertise in data visualization, and he helps organizations to make better decisions. I've seen him traveling all over the world to train so many professionals, and that's impactful and helpful for the organizations as well. And about his Tableau journey, he has been in the industry for so long. However, he also curates a weekly Tableau Bytes newsletter. If you haven't subscribed, you should. And also, he is pretty much active on LinkedIn. He has his Tableau training page and also co-leads the Birmingham Tableau user group as well as the UK healthcare Tableau user group. And also, he's a sought after industry speaker, and he shares his passion for empowering people with Tableau skills and also transforming lives through data. So, thank you so much. And today, he's going to talk about Excel at Tableau's order of operations and steer your way through the query flow. As Steve mentioned, one of his friend is not able to join us. However, I'll just introduce him because he was supposed to be here, but it's life, right? Anybody can get sick. So, Chris, uh, you can also find him on Twitter. He's Bistry UK Chris. That means he's coming from Bistry. Okay, that's interesting. And he's also a highly skilled professional and specializes in creating impactful data strategies. And he has around 25 years of experience in data innovation, including a decade in NHS and 15 years consulting for global brands. He's also a coach, and he excels at building high-performing teams to align data strategies. Wow, like both of you, if I add up these years of experience, I'm almost at like 1/4 of that, like my total, even not even in data. So that's a different analogy.
What are you
I'm
trying to
talking
say,
about.
Prasad? What are you trying to say?
You're old.
Exactly.
Oh my God, what is
I
this
don't
conversation?
Okay, so I can crack more jokes, but I'll hand it over to you, Steve.
Chris,
Take it
Steve.
through.
Well, thanks very much, Prasan, and welcome everybody. I noticed the fun facts were missing, so I'm going to change all that. Let me just share my screen. Hopefully you can see my screen. Whoa, that's horrible. Let's go here instead. So I'm not going to skip through this, apart from just pointing out that because Prasan pointed out that I looked very old previously, I've lost the grey beard. So thanks for that, Prasan. Fun fact, I'm going to give you something later on, but I'm going to ask something right at the very beginning. This Sunday, I happen to be doing a fundraiser for cancer research, and I am doing a stand-up gig. Now, I've never done a stand-up gig before, so it's quite nerve-wracking. So please do support me if you can. Just a couple of pounds to give to Charity for Cancer Research. I really would appreciate that. I'm not going to give you the long drawn-out story as to why I'm doing that, but 1 out of every 2 people gets affected by cancer these days. So hopefully you can dig in, take a quick picture on that QR code and donate if you can. And then later at the very end, as a thank you, I'm going to give you another QR code, which is going to give you free access to a strategy and planning workshop that I'm running in a couple of weeks' time. So apologies for my colleague Chris not being here. He actually has done all the hard work and I was going to take the glory. That's kind of backfired a little bit. So I'm going to have to do his hard work bits now. So forgive me if I stutter and stumble through his work and his slides a little bit. You'll see later that this is a one-off presentation and therefore I haven't seen it before myself. However, a lot of the theory is taken from a training course that Chris and I threw together for my clients in my community, and we're going to sort of like take bits of that from there and run it through with you. And what we're talking about is the order of operations, but what is important to understand is why and how the order of operations operates and works with what is quite commonly called the query flow. So you can see the query flow in front of you right now. It's got 4 stages. The first one is us interacting, and that means simplistically dragging and dropping something on a worksheet within Tableau. That instigates a query. That query is then returned back into Tableau, where Tableau does its own computations, and then we render. And then typically we go, oh no, I got it wrong because I'm analyzing in the flow. We drag again, and the whole thing just spins round. And we found through quite a few conversations that people still struggle with the concepts of the order of operations. And when we talk about it combined with the query flow, it tends to make a little bit more sense, which is why we've brought this together. Now I'm just going to put my timer on. Where are we? 1:45. Okay, cool. Oh. So just focusing on the top part of this is a little bit messy. I do apologize. Don't worry about it. We'll talk through it. The very first top part we have up here is the VizQL section. So VizQL, you probably know, is intellectual property of Tableau. It was what really kicked off Tableau back in 2003, and it's the language of visualization and transferring that into a standard query language. So here's me dragging and dropping in my worksheet. That then instigates a query which shoots back into Tableau via the underlying data set via a driver, right? So the reason why the very first thing we do is click on a particular data type is because that's going to use the technical driver which Tableau has created. So if you're going to connect through to Excel or CSV or text file or a SQL server, for example, you're going to use different drivers, which is the reason why we need to select those data types right at the very beginning. Why? Because the VizQL process converting that into the underlying query in your data set is different depending on what the data type is itself. So there's a few, I'm going to blame Chris because he's not here, right? So there's a few issues over here with the slide. Completely Chris's fault. But what VizQL does is it optimizes the underlying query so that we're going to get back in the most efficient way possible information from our underlying data source. And there are two filters which can impact that whole process. You'll be aware of them both. The first one is the extract filter. Okay, so if you're using an extract, because quite often we're not, the very first filtration process we can have in that flow is the extract itself, of course, because if we're going to create an extract, we might filter it, and then there'll be no more data from those filters that are excluding that information. That then goes into the extract process, which probably is being refreshed on a schedule, whether it be daily or hourly or weekly. And we then connect through to that extract and that refreshed extract process, and we can apply data source filters at that time. So after the extract filter, we then have the data source filter. We're then returning that query back into Tableau through the same driver, and it's coming back into our data source in our Tableau. Now, it could be that we are joining tables. It could be that we're using relationships. It could be that we're actually doing cross database joins. We're not going to go into that in too much detail, but what we're seeing here is that we will get multiple tables coming through. I'm going to clue what color I'm going to use. There you go. It's going to be red. So we could have multiple tables sitting inside Tableau at this point, and those tables then are aggregated tables coming back from that VizQL process. And then depending on what we're doing at the worksheet level, so this is all happening in the data source, we're now in the worksheet here. I mean, you notice here, Chris has been really quite anal on this. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns here because we're actually combining two tables of 4. So there's one primary key across those two tables. And that is a table which is then sitting now in Tableau's memory. Okay, and everything that we could do after that will be applied to that table. You can see here we've got the context filter, which I'm sure you've all heard of, which is something that we can add some into context. Certain items happen before and after that. What we see is that our sets and our top end calculations and our fixed LODs are calculated after that context filter, but before any dimension filters that we apply. So we can see here now our dimension filters are being applied in that flow. And as we go through this whole process, you can see that the aggregation level is getting greater and greater typically. Meant to do that with a, doesn't matter, with an arrow. And after our dimension filters, we are applying our exclude LODs and our include LODs. And that's one of the key things. We quite often, when we learn LODs from the outset, we go, oh, you know what? We got fixed LODs, we got include and exclude LODs. I can use one, I don't need all of them. This is where it really comes into play, because we need to understand the fact that our include and our exclude LODs are calculated after any dimensional filters, whereas the fixed LOD is being calculated prior to those dimensional filters. So it's really important when you're in your requirements gathering phase typically when you're doing your wireframing, when you're talking to your stakeholders about what the navigational process will be, that you want to really understand how they want to interact, engage with their data, because it helps you architect your solution at an early stage in terms of whether or not you want to be using level of detail expressions or potentially using table calculation expressions as well. I always use the phrase that the worst 3 words any developer, Tableau developer can ever hear, or in fact dashboard developer can ever hear when you're ready to go forwards and publish that dashboard, is your stakeholder saying, can you just click on this and make that filter over here? Because all of a sudden it goes, oh my God, I've got to re-architect my whole solution. And it may well be that you need to switch from LODs over to table calculations, or it may be that you need to switch from fixed LODs over to include or exclude LODs. So understanding that at a very, very early stage is really, really important. And it's certainly important that you want to be focusing on your functionality of your dashboard at the early stages before the form and the design aspects, the look and feel. Then we have our measure filters take place after exclude and include. And later we then narrow it all down to our aggregated tables, and our table calculations themselves take place, as well as forecasting, clustering, and any totals on our tables and our charts, for example. They all take place after context, dimension, and measure filters, which is why we then say that table calculations happen at the very end of that process. And what do we mean by a table calc filter? Well, simplistically, it's a calculated field which has been saved into your data source, and that's then being either directly put into your filters or being referenced within another calculated field into your filter as well. So you'll see that little delta triangle not just sitting on the pills within the worksheet, but you'll see it on one of the pills at least in your filters shelf. And what that means is that you're only filtering what the user can see visually. It's not impacting the underlying temporary table, which is then driving any of your calculated fields. And that's really quite important. So I can't see whether I've got any questions anywhere. I'm just going to assume everybody's listening. But Annabelle, are there any things I need to address at this point?
No, I like the way that you explain that. Like with this interact, query, computer, and render. I really like it.
Cool.
Well
cool.
done.
Thank you very much. And one thing I should have apologized earlier on, I couldn't fix, by the way, is for some reason my camera's on reverse and you can't actually see my wonderful Christmas cheer jumper, can you? Very
so
clear.
I had to Google it because I didn't know what that means. I knew it was like a message for me.
Bar humbug. Well, you told me to bring my Christmassy cheer. Well, the one thing I do like about Christmas is it gives me the opportunity to wear my bar humbug jumper. There you go.
Yeah, and big yourself, big grumpy.
Because I love being grumpy, right? That's what I go for. So we've kind of walked through that at the theoretical level. Let's see what that means in practice. I'm going to come out of, if I can, PowerPoint. I don't usually use PowerPoint. And we're going to dive into this wonderful demonstration which Chris has developed. And I haven't got a clue really what's going on. So bear with me as we walk through this. We're going to discover this together, right? So we've got a Christmassy, you'll be pleased to know, Annabelle, a Christmassy data set. Okay, as you can see, we've got the 12 days of Christmas. Now, apparently, originally the 12 days of Christmas were a French thing. Is that right, Annabelle?
I don't know what is this.
You don't recognize it? Well, fantastic. Well, that's even better. I mean,
I know the word in French, jeune fille dansant, dan filant. I wonder what it means. I will Google it too.
Yeah, well, canard pendant. Apparently is geese lane. But anyway, we've got our UK originals over here as well. So most people, I hope, will recognize partridge in a pear tree, turtle doves, French hens, calling birds. Oh, what? Now, you see, because we know the data set, we realize something's missing, right? We've got that white band going across here. And we can see that there, I think it's 5 golden rings or 5 rings or whatever color they may be. is missing. So we know we've got a problem in the view that we're looking at because we know the data. We can also look over on the right-hand side. We've actually got some other country translations. Now, again, Annabelle is being fluent in Spanish. I know. I don't know. You live in Swiss Germany, so maybe your German's quite good, Annabelle. But
so there is some mistakes. I can already tell you, because maids milking, it's translated as in French jeune fille dansant. That means like young lady dancing. But in Spanish, it says that is grandma's cooking.
Well, there's nothing wrong with a few grandmas cooking, right? I don't know how maids became grandmas.
It's weird.
But regardless of how poor the Google, because this is not Chris, obviously, this is Google, the Google translation was giving us, we also noticed quite clearly that we've got even more missing fields over here, and we're not too sure why. What we do notice, though, is that we've got a gift type over here on the right hand side, and we've got a legend which is telling us that the greens are animals, and the whatever color that is people orientated gifts. So that's people presumably being given as opposed to giving people. Well, I don't know what they're doing. But the first thing is we've got a problem with our data. So let's try and find out why our data has been filtered out. We can see immediately, of course, we've got gift type in our filter. So let's go and have a look in there. So this is a dimensional filter, and hey presto, we can see for some unknown reason Chris has decided to remove instruments as a gift type from our database. So let's click and include our instruments, and hopefully we'll get, we've got a few things coming back in. I love this little animation replay because I didn't see that properly. So here we go. Now we're replaying our animation, and we can see what's appeared based upon the change in our gift types. But clearly that's not solved all of our problems. So if we think about the order operations, and more importantly that query flow, we've gone and looked at the dimensional filter. Let's go back up the chain now, and the next one up the chain was the data source filter. So if we right click on our data source here, we can directly access our data source filters. We don't need to go back to the data source pane. Here we go. So apparently the organization which has got these 12 gifts floating around the place has got a bit of an issue with ChatGPT or AI generated stuff, and it didn't want to include it. So you can see here that the source is excluding GPT generated data. So edit that. There you go. Let's remove that now and see what happens when we click on OK. And hey presto, we've got a few more things coming back in. So we can see on the right hand side that we've got some additional columns coming in. Now we didn't even know they were there. So that's a bit scary, isn't it? So we always, when we do inherit this stuff, and it comes a little bit back to what Jennifer was saying earlier on, when you're inheriting somebody else's, you want some good documentation. It would have been nice if we'd known about these things being filtered out initially. The data source filter is probably something that would clearly be documented across the whole workbook, but you'd be looking at the documentation at a worksheet by worksheet basis, of course, to understand what and why we're filtering out the gift types as we were. But we got these GPT generated ones. So I'm not going to ask Annabelle about her Aussie or her US version of the 12 Days of Christmas, but we've got things like a cookie in a gum tree as opposed to partridge in a pear tree. We've got koalas napping as opposed to French hens. And we've got some young women pulling cow juice. Now that's actually a Mandarin translation, but it's an interesting translation because what we've done here is we've translated maids a milking using Google or ChatGPT, sorry, into Mandarin, and then because we don't read Mandarin, we've translated the Mandarin back into English, and it's kind of gone a bit loopy. So young women pulling cow juice is definitely going to be one of my favorites, cow juice for milk. But we still got white bars all over the place. So, of course, we've looked at the data source filter. That hasn't fixed all of our problems. Let's go and have a look at the extract filter. So we can see over here by the icons that these are extracts. If I right click on here, I can go on to my extract data. And hopefully this isn't broken. Here we go. We get this pop-up pane and we can see one filter has been applied. If we expand upon that, we'll see that there's a gift type. And it's excluding food and drink and other. Why on earth would you want to exclude food and drink and other? So let's remove those exclusions, click on OK, and save those settings. And now I'm going to need to refresh my extract, having changed those. Yeah, of course I do. Wouldn't be demonstrating if I didn't want to do that. Did anything actually happen then? I'm not too sure. It's that demo effect, isn't it? Not too sure what's happened there. Maybe I need to. No. I'm just going to obviously blame Chris for this completely now. Oh, there you go. I should have taken my filter out of that. Ah, silly old me. If I rewind, now I need to go and have a look at my filter in my dimension and see what's going on here. And we can see actually, because we were selecting what to include, food and drink and other, we're actually being filtered out indirectly in my dimensional filter. So let's click on OK. And now we haven't got any white spaces. We've got a few things coming through. We can see that the Italians prefer their food and drink because we've got more food and drink than we do in England. Obviously, England not famous for its cuisine. We've got other. We've got a few more others in the US. 5 Super Bowl rings. That's quite an interesting one. Again, that's ChatGPT jumping in. So we can see that we've looked at our filters now from the extract through the data source to the dimension and see what that impact has been. And it may well be that we may not have known some of those white spaces were there if we don't know our data set well enough. So then we looked at the LOD impact, right? So we're going to look at that now. Am I going to cheat or am I going to try and make this up as I go along? I'm going to try and make this up as I go along. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at regions in our data. So we've got Christmas spend. Oh, that's always a good one. We're going to look at regions. We're going to break this down by cities. And you can see that we've got, this is an English data set we're looking at. In the east of England, we've got Bedford, Cambridge, Chelmsford, all these wonderful places that most of you have probably not heard of. But we're just going to look at how much money people are spending. So let's bring in our sum of spend into our table. And we can see in Bedford, for example, the total spend on Christmas goods apparently is 61,335. That's UK pounds. Now, I think that's across the whole of Bedford, supposedly. I think you might find that it's demo data. Okay. But what I want to do is understand what proportion Bedford is of the region. Okay. So let's bring in the total. I'm going to double click on that, bring my totals in so we can see that the total spend in my Bedford region is 704,000. And for whatever reason, I'm interested in actually creating a level of detail expression to identify what the total spend is by region. And then I'm going to do another calculation, which is going to allow me to then compare each of the individual cities to the regional spend values. So how do we do that? Well, let's take region and spend and right click on that and create our LOD calculation. And that's just going to be called fixed region spend. Okay, so we can see here what we're doing is we're fixing at the level of detail region, and we're calculating the aggregated amount spend by summing that up. Click on apply, bring that into our table, and we should see, hopefully, if we put them the right way around, it make a bit more sense. We can see now that we're just adding up our fixed amount for each of those regions. No rocket science going on as yet. But what we also might want to do is just understand what if we were to use a different approach. So instead of using a fixed level of detail expression, let's use an exclude level of detail expression. How could we do that? Well, let's just take city, because we're going to exclude city from the level of detail, and we're going to take spend again. Right click on there, create our LOD calculation. The default for Tableau is fixed, but we can change that, of course, just by overtyping that. So we're excluding city from the calculation, and that will obviously return the same value, right? Let's call that exclude city sum spend. Ooh, not suspend. Okay, and I didn't name that. Oh, look at that typo. I've got very cold hands, by the way. I'm working on the 3rd floor and the heat is all on the ground floor. So my feet are okay, but my hands are still cold. Let's click on OK and bringing in exclude. Exactly the same answer, which is what I said earlier on, where we first learn LODs and we go, well, you know what, fixed is a lot easier to understand than exclude or include. So we tend to focus more on fixed. It's only really when we start working with Tableau more and more that we use more and more excludes and includes. But it's also when you get to this area when we're actually applying filters that we start to realize that it's not much of a choice. We actually have to do it based upon the analytical question we're trying to answer. So let's go back to that analytical question, which was that we wanted to understand what the fixed percentage of region was. So I've got, here's one I prepared earlier. So I'm going to bring in my fixed percentage of region. And let's put it in here. And I should have prepared it better than that, Chris. Let's change that to default the properties to 1%. And I'm going to keep 2 decimal places just for a laugh. So we can see now that in Bedford, we've got 8.71% of the East of England region is being spent in Bedford on Christmas gifts. And the Cambridge area, which is a much more affluent area, you must know, one of the top 10 universities in the world, obviously, is in Cambridge, highly affluent. We've now got 13.44% of the regional spend is taking place in Cambridge. There's a lot of money being spent around London. Obviously, the whole of London is taking up 1.2 million. And Camden, central London, where all the locks are, Comedy Club as well, actually, 10.89%. Let's bring in the exclude percentage. So just to pop in there, let's have a look at what that calculation is. But it's very simply, all we're doing is taking the sum of the spend, and then we're dividing it by that level of detail expression, in this case, the exclude version of our level of detail. So I'm going to bring that into my view as well. And we can see yet again, getting exactly the same values here. But what if we're interested in looking at different spend categories? Okay, so let's bring in spend category now into our filter. And initially, I'm just going to put all in here. I should have actually right-clicked and did show filter immediately, because we might be interested in only looking at decor and gifts, for example. So what proportion is Bedford spending across the East of England region in decor and gifts? And this is, of course, where we start to get differences. We are seeing here that the spend has seemingly reduced to only 7%. Now, the reason for that is because our fixed regional spend hasn't altered based upon that change. Let me just click on food again. Keep your eyes on the fixed column. It doesn't get impacted. So what we're doing there is we're actually calculating and answering a different question. I'm not saying it's wrong, because it depends on the question you're trying to answer, or rather your stakeholders want you to answer. So in this particular case, what we're doing is we're comparing the decor and gift spend in Bedford to the total amount of all gifts in the whole of the East England. Whereas over here, we're looking at the decor and gifts value spend in Bedford compared to the East of England spend on only decor and gifts. Am I making any sense there? It's horrible, by the way, because I can't see any of you. I can just see my other computer screen down there. But are there any questions coming in, or is that making sense?
That makes sense, but I suppose that you will have some question at the end. Or do you want
Yeah,
to?
that's fine. We can take questions at the end as well. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so that's level of detail, and we've looked at the dimensional filter. Let's move on to one of our favorites, which is obviously a table calculation. We got something pre-prepared here. We're looking at annual values, 22, 23, 24, looking at the Christmas spending across various different countries. We can see here regions of Africa, America, blah, blah, blah. And we've got this typical table calculation, which is the percentage difference from, and we're looking over year. So in fact, that's actually a year over year growth. Okay. So over in Africa, they're spending a lot less money. All of these numbers are wonderful, except we've got this really annoying column here. Okay. So quite often, of course, we want to remove that. And we all know, obviously, that we don't want to just right click on 2022 and exclude that. Why? Because we're going to exclude it from the underlying table, and therefore we're going to lose our 2023 calculations. There you go, just to prove the point. So we can't use a dimensional filter there. We need to use a table calculation filter. Now, there are 3 types we can go with, okay? The first is the easiest one, which is to just click on my nulls here and use the filter data option. But let's just understand what it's actually doing. You can see we've popped that into our filter here. So let's right click on that and edit that filter. And you can see it's taken us to the special box. So we've got a table calculation, which is looking at the spend value. And it is saying, you know what? I only want to show the non-null values. So that's how we've excluded that whole column, by saying we're not interested if the result of the table calculation is a null value, then we want to remove it from the view. Now that's kind of okay, but what if there were some other null values in there that we didn't want to exclude? That's quite a broad brush we're painting across there. And it may well be that there are some errors in our data that we're omitting from our view that otherwise we might want to pick up on. Okay, so maybe that's not the only solution we've got. Another approach we can take is by applying a lookup value. Okay, so we could look up the year in each of these columns and allow our user to choose which years they wanted to view. Okay, so if we look at lookup value, it's a table calculation, it's going to return whatever we're pointing at. Now, I come from the world of Excel hell, and I like thinking about the lookup table calculation as being the ability to just point and shoot at any cell in my Excel spreadsheet and create a formula from it. That's the way I like to think of a lookup calculation in Tableau. It allows me to think about, well, where am I looking up? Am I looking up in the cell that I'm actually doing the calculation in, or do I want to actually offset that? Okay, so that I can look at various different ways. Let's just create a lookup calculation then. Create a calculated field. I'm going to call this my year lookup. I might even spell it right. And we're going to just type in lookup. You can see here we need an expression, so we're going to be looking at the year. We've got a field over here which is actually called year, so it's not a date field, it's a numerical field. Let's just look at year, and we're going to offset it specifically. It says it's an optional field here with the square brackets, but I like to be prescriptive, so I'm going to put a 0 in there. And we're still getting an error message. Now, why is that? Well, because the temporary table that we're looking at behind each worksheet is an aggregation. It means we actually need aggregated fields in here. And because each cell we're looking at has only got one value of year, because we've got year in the level of detail of our view, it means we can, it doesn't really matter whether we aggregate that field or not, because it's always going to return the same value. So I could do min year, or I could do max year, or average year, or attribute. But I'm just going to put in min, and we're going to get that C year lookup. Now, initially, that's giving us a continuous value. I want to actually convert that into a discrete value, simply because I just want our users to be able to use it as a filter. So I'm also going to just change my default properties on the number format so that we can remove that nasty little comma for the separators, because that doesn't make sense when we're looking at years. It's great for thousands, and obviously we don't want decimal points either. So get rid of that. Now I can right click on here, and it's not there, is it? Silly me. I'm going to just drag it directly into the filter, and I'm going to select all to start with and show that for my end user to play around with. And you can see here it looks like years, and I can then remove 2022, and it doesn't impact the calculation in my 2023 column because it's a table calculation filter. So I said there are 3 ways to do it. This is the user interaction way. The previous one is the blunt, broad baseball bat approach. And the third one is potentially the one which might be used if you've got rolling data sets, and you might be uploading a new data set in the next financial year, for example, or the next reporting period, and you're only looking at a rolling, let's say 3 years in our case, 3 years worth of data, which means the first year will be constantly changing when you move from one year to the next. And I like to think of trying to design workbooks which are sustainable and don't require me to do any end of year administration on them. So what you would do is you would actually basically just say, look, if it's the first year, then remove it. I'm not going to show you that right now because we're going to use that technique quite soon instead. Okay, so that is table calculation filters. We're also, and I'm probably running out of time, so I'm going to rush through the next bits. We're going to look at, in a moment, we're going to look at the quantity of presents which are being delivered around the world on Christmas Eve to all the lovely little children, under 14-year-olds being defined as a child, apparently. So in this case, what we're doing is we're looking at the point in time. So if we were on the 24th of December today, we're talking about 1818 right now in the UK. That's 18 minutes past 6. But as you well know, we have different time zones around the world. So they're actually, it's midnight at a different point on every single time of the day. And at the moment, in Jiangsu, I wish I'm not very good at Chinese, but Jiangsu, it's apparently just gone midnight. No, that's not true because we haven't refreshed, have we? So let's right click on here and refresh my data source. And let's go back over. Whee, there you go. I've been talking for so long. It's now, I can't even pronounce it. Can anybody pronounce that? That's where it is midnight right now. Hopefully that will turn into something a little bit more pronounceable in a couple of moments. But you can see here we've got our running sum. So totaling up all the presents that we've handed out to all the little boys and girls who are under 14 years old. And at the bottom, we can see the actual number of presents at any one moment in time. So we can see here, for example, Tokyo is a big spike, of course. That happened quite some time ago. The latest big spike we've had recently is, again, something completely unpronounceable. Of course, Calcutta. I'm going to guess, yeah, Calcutta, probably, with under 14 population of 4,000,006. That's a crazy under 14 population. So why is that useful for us to think about? Well, because we might actually want one of those wonderful big ass numbers, right? Which is actually just going to be looking at our total sum of presents that have been delivered, but we only want to look at the very last number. So we might build up a big ass number card, which is looking at very similar fields over here. You can see I've got a tooltip, which is getting in my way there, but the actual card itself is just looking at the just visited Patna and delivered 422,017 presents in Patna, which takes the total to 403,235,959 presents being delivered so far this Christmas Eve, if today was the 24th of December. How do we get there? Well, of course, we've got this wonderful is latest true table calculation filter. So let's go and have a very quick look at that. You'll be amazed at how complicated this isn't. It's just using our last, which doesn't require any arguments being passed to it. It's one of those wonderful helper table calculation lookups, helper functions. So what we're doing is we're basically just turning it into a Boolean, and we're saying, look, if it's the last in the whole of our table, We know that because 0 is the last column that we're going to refer to. Everything else is going to be minus if it's before then. So our filter here is just going to be looking at those if it's true. So it's a really easy and powerful way to actually use table calculations to have a calculated field effectively showing something which is calculated at a different level of detail than what we've got in our view. I emphasize that phrase there because most level of detail expressions can be written using table calculations, and it's playing with the order of operations by thinking about what you want to filter and when you want to filter it, that you want to be thinking about, should it be an LOD or could I actually use table calculations? So there's the complexity of writing a calculation in the first place that you want to think about. Is it easier with an LOD? Is it easier with a table calculation? But you also want to be thinking about performance, because the table calculations are actually taking place on the temporary table, which is already sitting in memory on my Tableau server, whereas an LOD has to be pushed all the way back to the underlying data source and calculated at a row level. So there's a significant potential impact from a performance perspective between using LODs or using table calculations. Okay, so lastly, very quickly, Santa's run. Here we are. Is that going to refresh? Oh, it is. We're still in Patna. That can't be right, surely. Let me go back. Data, GIFs. Let's just refresh that. No, it's, oh my goodness. It's in Bhojpur. We've now delivered 4,831 presents into Bhojpur. It's a relatively small city. You can see my wonderful map here where Santa is actually delivered all in the red parts, and we're at this point in time in terms of a midnight barrier. But moving forward in time, we've only delivered 406,525,321 presents this Christmas Eve. It will progress. Let's just see if that progresses much, because this is actually on a second by second scale, so that should change. We've gone from Bhojpur to Sandagar. Prasan, you're gonna have to help me on that one. But there you go. That is our progression of Christmas present delivery over New Year's Eve as at 6:24 UK time. Do I have more time, Annabelle?
That's Prasam is the master of the watch master.
The whip master.
Yeah, also.
Prasan, do I have a bit more time?
Sure. If you want to take a few minutes,
okay,
it's fine.
Okay. I think I will take a few minutes, because another example of using table calculation filters is this one here. So what the visualization we're looking at right now is we're just looking at golden rings, because we wanted to analyze what proportion were golden rings of the total running sum of presents given throughout the 12 days of Christmas. So we can see on day 5, for example, the running sum of total, the tooltip's horrible here. Never ever leave the defaults. I blame Chris again, although this is actually my fault. But the total percentage of presents for golden rings is 14%. So we actually need the level of detail of all of the other presents in that calculation. But if we showed them all, it would look a little bit like this, which would be horrendous for us to see. So at the end, we're actually just looking at one of those rows. We can see the level of detail, but when we bring it all in, we get a wonderful little Christmas tree at the end for you to say, Happy Christmas, everybody. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
I don't see any problem with the last bees. It looks like a Christmas tree.
That was exactly what it was supposed to look like. There you go. It's beautiful, isn't it? Isn't that beautiful?
Exactly. Nothing wrong about that.
Bar humbug. Do we have any questions?
Okay, so where is Q&A? We have a question here. So, does adding the filter to context achieve the same result as using exclude?
Oh, absolutely not. No, it's quite the opposite effect there. So using context would turn a fixed level of detail expression into something which could be equating to an exclude, in fact. Because if, let me share my screen again. And we'll try and find, that's a lovely view, isn't it? I love that. So we're talking about adding something into context here. What we're actually going to be doing is we're moving the filter process before the fixed LOD expression here. So that would effectively create the same impact as if it was an exclude with a dimensional filter. I hope that makes sense.
And we have one more question here. When you go from the cross DB join and relationships in the data tab, do you really get a single table of data in Tableau using the relationship?
At the worksheet level. At the worksheet level. So basically what we've got in the data source when we got relationships is each time each worksheet is being configured, Tableau is then working out what type of join is required and whether or not a join is required, of course. But typically it will be an inner join or a left or a right join or a full outer join, depending upon the dimension combinations and the measure combinations that you've actually got from each of those individual tables. So each worksheet theoretically results in a separate temporary table to calculate.
I think that answers the question, and that's the end of our Q&A as well. Thank you so much.
Hold on,
Steve.
I've got one slide I need to show you very quickly. No, let me share. Oh, share my screen instead. And so, oh no, I forgot to show that slide, Annabelle. That was one that Chris spent ages over. That's his festive version of our operational flow and our query flow and our order of operations. Sorry about that. There's a whole bunch of other slides we'd normally go through in our training, which we didn't have time to go through. But I did want to give everybody the option, if they wanted to, that you can join us for free on the 23rd of December, where we're going to be holding a Q1 planning session. So we're going to brainstorm and work through. You're going to actually walk away with your own personalized plan for Q1 based upon your priorities, your roadblocks, and your the issues that you face. So if you fancy coming along to that, it's pro bono for you. It's actually a session that I'm running with some of my clients. So we're just opening up the doors and letting, because you've spent time with us today, we thought you might want to spend a bit more time and actually get some direct deliverables from it. So feel free to use that QR code, register, get on. We do have a limited number of available seats because it's on the Zoom. So the quicker you do that, the better. And you'll receive some emails from us next week on the sign up details with all the Zoom contents as well. So that was it. And that's, you can see why I've shaved off my beard as well. Sorry, Prasanth, back over to you.
No, that's totally fine. And I think that's a great opportunity for people who want to plan for the next year coming up. And yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you so much, Steve. And thank you so much for delivering this session. Like, it's actually an important part of, I think, one of the heart of if you're executing anything in Tableau, and if you don't know about it, you're not going anywhere. So thank you so much for taking us through this session. Okay, so guys, I'm glad you all are here, and now we have the final moment. We have the Analytics TUG Quiz Mania.
Quiz!
Yes. Okay, so get ready if you want to get some water or anything, and beware,
Remember
like
the trick, the tip that I gave you at the beginning? Remember the number?
yeah. That can make you a winner or no winner. That's going to be a decider, actually. There are some silly questions as well, but I think we are going to get through this. And also, whosoever wins, best of luck to everyone. And whosoever wins, you're going to get some great gifts from Tableau itself. Okay, so first of all, first time doing this Mentimeter, so let's start this game. Ooh. Okay, so go to menti.com and use this code over there, or you can scan this QR code. Okay.
Yeah, let's wait some minutes that people join.
Yeah.
Do you have the number of people? It's 8, 9, the number of people
I
who
think
joined?
so. I think so, because the yeses this thumbs up I'm getting, I think that is actually.
It's okay. It's okay. We will see. We'll see. Let's give them like some minutes. I mean, yeah, the GIFs are very exciting. How many GIFs do we have, Prasan?
We'll decide, but for now, what we have decided is 3. The top 3 are gonna get mostly a good amount of gift vouchers over there, and you can get some hoodies. There's so many great things on the Tableau store right now.
And Steve, you can participate, huh? You don't know the question, so you can participate if you want.
You didn't join early, Steve, so I don't know if you're gonna able to answer those questions.
Exactly. 3 voice people are getting a gift this year, just before Christmas. Indeed, John. I mean, the question are about the TUG, so you see, if you are like coming often at the TUG, you will be able to answer the question. It's like just to reward people who are doing a good job.
Guys, give me a yes, and so that I can know if everybody has joined. I can see still people are joining. There's so many participants. I can just see 46 thumbs up.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe people like I put several thumbs up. You don't know. I mean, we have given like plenty of time. Wait 1 additional minute and let's just start.
Yeah. So, for me, it's 10:34 p.m. I'm gonna wait for 2 more minutes.
Yeah.
10:36. Fast, guys. I have to wake up early at 6 again tomorrow for my office.
Oh. But when you wake up and you go to the office, is it dark outside or not? Because that is very depressing.
When I wake up, like I usually wake up around 5:45, so that time it's a bit dark. But by the time I get ready and go to like from a bus, like, till then it's at least the sun is up.
Okay, that's good.
But right now it's fine in Dubai. It's good actually. The weather is good.
Oh, that's also important.
Okay, we still have 1 minute.
We should have put like some Christmas song way to wait.
Yeah.
Miss opportunity. We will do better next year.
Do you have a dress, Steve, hat or something?
Did you join, Steve?
Yeah, I've joined. Did you say a dress? Do I have a dress, Prasan?
Yeah, like cap.
Oh, I
Must be having a
see.
cap.
I see. No, I don't. I don't have any antlers either. Sorry.
I just realized that I don't have a Christmas sweater.
How could you not have a Christmas sweater?
I don't
Amber?
know. I don't know.
After all these years of producing Christmas themed visualizations.
Exactly.
The thing is, she's too busy with the visualization. So
I mean, I used to have when I was a kid and my mother was knitting that to me. And since then, I always wanted to buy one, but I haven't found one that
Okay.
I love. So, yes. No, yours
DM,
I don't like, Steve. Yours I don't like.
you DM me your address and I'll send you my jumper.
Maybe I should.
Okay, everyone. So the time is here. Now I'm going to move over to our questions. Okay, so I'll have a 1 minute timer. You can respond.
Yeah, there is some trick in this question. What is the correct syntax for this date add function?
It's actually a tricky one.
I wonder who wrote that.
When I saw this, I literally had to search it, and then I was literally confused.
So indeed, the last two are the same. I don't know.
I was going to say that was the trick, and I'm looking at those two thinking, hold on, there's a typo difference between them. No.
Okay, that's that.
One person here is responsible for the question. The other person is responsible for Menti. We will not say who is who because both will get hated.
Okay, so time is up. Sorry about that, guys. You're not supposed to hit the fifth one. So over to the next one. Let's see. Some red bars, please. Some yellow bars, please.
The problem with Menti is that as soon as you see the answer of some people, you get yourself influenced. Oh,
Somebody's done that on purpose. Was that a trick question as well?
of course, it's a tricky question.
I think everyone is done. I guess so. I'll let the timer close. Okay. Moving over to the next one.
So we don't have the answer? We don't have the answer for the previous one.
Okay, I'll tell you.
It was obvious.
Yeah. I think most of the people, they gave the right answer, so that's fine.
There is one person who answered very quickly. I don't know if it's the same or not.
And after this one, we have the toughest questions. 2 questions.
Exactly. It's the most important.
Right. Very tough questions.
Who's got the best jumper?
Almost. Oh, Tom, you will have to come back next year and play again.
So the correct answer is size. Sorry, everyone. I'm really impressed whosoever wrote those options.
Exactly. Which creativity. A very creative person. Also beautiful, but okay. I mean, I managed to trick some people, huh? So
Yeah.
that was the idea.
Okay, over to the most of question now. Yeah. Okay, and here, how many VOTD do Chimdi and Prasan have together? Your timer starts now.
It's a difficult question, but if you would have read to the introduction at the beginning, you would have remembered the right number.
See, I have a very small contribution to that. Please.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, you don't have like the viz of the day that you really deserve. You deserve much more, Rasa.
At least I started whizzing this year. At least I did whiz much more this year than Mentry.
Very good.
And I loved it.
Viz of the day doesn't matter. It doesn't mean something.
Mhm.
So it seems that people think that it's 18.
People were, I think, some of the people
I mean, I
who were
really
there.
insisted on the 14
Yeah. Yeah.
and 4.
Okay. And great, guys.
So,
Most
Carolina,
of you were correct.
we couldn't use Scout. If someone of you can give us like a free Scout license, we will use it gladly.
It's so expensive.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so over to our next question. I don't know how many of you would know this, but what year did the Analytics TUG won the Vizzies Award for Best TUG for the last time? After that, we were
for
banned.
the last time, because
Yeah.
we win twice. And after we got prohibited to participate again.
Oh, that's a giveaway. That is. You're just giving it away.
I have a nice photo of the stage as well.
People know us, huh?
Yeah. Five. Okay, that's great. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much, everyone. I think these were the only questions we had. And the answer is 2023. So I think this was my second time going to TC. And I think it was a great moment.
Yeah.
I still remember it. I have a great photo. Zach Bowders actually took that photo, and I still have that. It was quite, and thank you so much. Most of you know about that, so that's so great. Okay, so I think now how it works is the next slide is going to be the leaderboard. So let's see. How does it work? Yeah.
I'm a little worried now, but that's fine.
It's telling me that I haven't voted on this question. So have you got a blank question at the end of your Menti? Is that what it is?
Enough responses.
No, don't reset the result. Don't reset. I mean, otherwise, I have another possibility. Either we select, for instance, the first one who joins the tag today. That type of information.
There should be something.
Oh, I'm sure that Prasam will figure out the answer. But
And
it
the
will
winner
have
And let me see if we have the results.
Cassandra's made a good point. I didn't have to give my name.
Oops. So,
Oh, no, I have the results.
Yeah, but you don't know who they are. It's a minor detail, you know.
So I think it's time.
But the names, if you want to see that word. So Guys, you didn't had any option to type in your name.
No, we didn't
Yeah,
know.
we will do random draw. I think we have
Really?
to do a random draw.
You didn't have any option to.
No.
Okay. Now how we do it now, Animal?
Don't worry. I got this. If everyone stay like 1 or 2 minutes, I will be able to download the list of the participant and do like, this wheel. But I need to download the list of the participants. Give me 1 minute.
This is funny, actually.
Attendee, can I download the list of the participants? Because I don't want to do that manually.
Yeah. That's why you don't use free things.
Yeah, we need to have another software, but someone has to pay for it. So
Now it is coming. View results. Can I? No, it's not giving. This is what happens when you explore things on the fly.
okay, I have the list. Okay, sorry for that, guys, but if we want like to
I've attended other tugs and I've managed to work it perfectly, Priscilla.
Hey, do you want to be reinvited? Do you want to be reinvited? I'm working now very quickly in Excel. So,
Excel, what's that?
yeah, Excel was that.
I was catching up on the chats and people were referring to Lotus 123. That was actually, I think, my first spreadsheet tool as well, way back when.
Okay. I almost have the list of the participants. I should share my screen so people see the struggle that I have. Okay. Terminé.
VisiCalc.
Okay.
I was familiar with VisiCalc, but no, I never used it yet.
Okay, and okay,
I'm racking my brain because actually the one I first used was before Lotus 123, but I can't remember what it was.
Now I just want to put the people who really attend. You know what? I should. I
think you should go with alphabetical order.
No,
by surname.
It's not fair. Okay. Check-in date. I have the date. We are safe. We are safe.
So to download the information, it is asking me to pay. Wow, nice.
Okay, I have it.
Okay, then I'll stop the shame game I did.
Okay, so now I need to find a tool with the wheel. Wheel picker, fantastic. Wheel of name. I never worked so fast. I never worked so fast in my entire life. Okay, a name. I hope that works.
So Steve, like you didn't had any option of putting your name, because if we don't have name, how
okay, so now I can share my screen, guys.
No, Annabelle's gone into to Bevy, I guess, to get the names of
yes.
check-ins.
Yeah. Sorry, it take me so much time. Okay, so I put the list of all the name here. Can you see?
Whoa!
So now I will press first time.
Let's see.
let's see. The only problem is like whoever it is, I don't have the email, so this person has to contact us.
And the person has to be here, right?
This person has came. I don't know if if they
Yep.
are still there, but I hope so. Okay, so
Tell me, are
I am-
you here? I don't think so.
So we will do it until I will remove and do it again until we find like
Yay.
3 people. Let's do that.
Just get
Yeah.
back to the presenter.
I mean, at one moment I need to. That's the people who signed in, so I know that they were there at one moment. Do we have a David Gill?
Do we have David here? Ooh.
No.
No.
I will do it until we have like a winner here.
Yeah. We have like 3 who are already here.
I know. José Duval.
Are you here?
I write name. I write down the name. Huh? So if you have like
The search is saying they've left.
Exactly. The problem that with baby I don't have the email, so I am not capable of contacting. Do we have a Laurie and Steve?
Yes, Laurie's still here.
She's here. Fantastic. We have our first winner.
We need your email address, Laurie.
Yeah, please. You can DM us.
Yeah, please DM us. The first one is Laurie.
Ayan. We have a Stephanie Ayan.
No.
No.
I continue.
Yeah.
Continue.
I can see Annabelle, your name as well.
I have, yes, because myself. Kevin, we don't know.
Kevin.
I hope that you are still here.
Kevin Ford is still here.
Ah, fantastic. We have our second winner.
Yeah. So we have
I mean,
Kevin
if I
as well.
throw myself, I will remove myself. Don't worry. I just put people that, don't.
I'll send you a voucher, Annabelle.
Oh, no, it's okay. Jessica, we can.
No, we've got Jessica Parker, but not Jessica Williams.
Yeah. Moving on.
This could take some time, Anne. You're right.
We only have 3 winners. Huh?
It's true. One more.
Ellen,
One more.
Ellen, are you here?
Let's see.
Still logged in.
Yes. Logged
Fantastic.
in, but yep.
So we have our 3 winners.
Yeah, we have our 3 winners.
Fantastic.
They need to either DM you their contact details. Have they done that, Prasan?
I don't think we have got any emails.
I mean, you
yet.
can also contact us in LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Please, the 3 winner, please contact us. And otherwise, we will distribute the gift to charity.
Yay!
And the charity meaning Steve.
Not me personally, no.
Thank you very much, guys. And we
Yeah.
are sorry for the trouble that we had, but at least we had a good time and it was fun.
Yeah. It was fun.
And we found our 3 winners.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me, guys. I really enjoyed that, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. So don't forget to register for the next one. That will come up end of January. We already have the page in Bevy. Not yet the 2 other speakers that we will announce soon, but yes, please register so I don't have to bother you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Have a
Thank you.
happy Christmas, everybody.
Happy Christmas.
Happy holidays. Happy Christmas.
Happy holidays.